Exam technique. This presentation will take you through some of the basic concepts that are going to be required for you to be successful in your business examination. Before we start, please remember that this video is being created specifically for the BTEC Business Level 3 Personal Business Finance exam. However, saying that, this could be used to be applied to all examinations that you're sitting in business. However, ensure that you always consult your exam board specification and the mark scheme to ensure you get a detailed breakdown of how the marks are being awarded. The way that this presentation will work is that you'll be presented with a question. You need to pause the video at the question and try and attempt the question before I'll go through the answer and show you a breakdown of how the marks will be awarded. Question 1. State 2 examples of non-current assets. Pause the video now and attempt the question. The answer you should have got for question 1 could have been something like building and machinery. Notice what I've done there is literally state the answer. It's really simple. You just make 2 correct points and you move on. Don't waste time trying to write out a fancy answer. All you've got to do is state the points. Other command words like this might be give, list, identify, but where you see these, just stick down the points and move on to the next question. Describe one benefit of B planning her personal finances. Pause the video now while you tackle that question. As you can see, this is the answer. So you could have said, for example, one benefit of planning her personal finances will be that she's able to avoid getting into debt. This will enable B to work out how much money she can afford to spend and if she will need to arrange an overdraft or a loan from the bank. Now, it's really important to think about how I answer this question. I get both marks because I actually connect my points. For example, if you look at what I've said, I say about avoiding getting into debt. I then go and develop that point by saying that if she can afford to spend what she's got, or if she needs to go to the bank to arrange an overdraft or a loan, that's a connected point, and because it's connected, I'll get the 2 marks. If the question was 4 marks, you'd need to make 2 points. 6 marks, 3 points, and so on, if you saw that command word describe. But it's really important that you don't make 2 separate points, you make 1 point that's connected. Question 3. Calculate the margin of safety. Pause the video now while you answer the question. Now, when you have a question which requires calculations, it's really important that you write out any formulas and you make it really clear where you are getting your numbers from. I tend to like the approach that I've shown you in this example, where I set it all out neatly in a straight line and it's very clear my stages that I've worked through. This is because if I make a mistake, I can actually pick up marks which are called follow-through marks for the working that I've done. As you can see, what I've done in this question is I first worked out my variable cost per unit. So I divided the 25,000, the monthly raw materials, by obviously the 10,000 that they produce each month, and that gave me a variable cost of £2.50 per unit. I then used my break-even formula, so fixed cost divided by the selling price minus a variable cost in brackets. There would be a mark for that stage. If you notice what I've done there, I've then worked out my break-even point, which would be 48,000 jars a year. I then need to do another part of the process because the break-even point tells me how many items per year, or my yearly number of jars. I've got to work out my yearly output. So I've taken my monthly figure of 10,000 jars each month and multiplied it by 12 to get 120,000 jars. And then we know the margin of safety formula will be the actual number of output, take away my break-even point, and currently I am a margin of safety of 72,000 jars. Hopefully that makes sense where it's come from, and hopefully you can follow my steps I'm working through. Do that and it's an easy 4 marks. Question 4. Explain the benefits of using a credit card to purchase concert tickets online. Pause the video now while you attempt that question. Now, with a question like this where you've got to explain, it's probably really useful to start by defining the key term in the start of your answer. And then I typically like to see 2 or 3 points made. Typically we look for 2 well-developed points. And by well-developed, what we mean is that you explain your points and make sure it's clear. So as you can see, my first paragraph there is explaining what's meant by the term a credit card. My second paragraph goes to the benefit of a credit card, and it shows that I have a good level of understanding, and I'm definitely developing my point and explaining. My second paragraph does exactly that. So my third paragraph does exactly that, where obviously I'm at my second point, as you can see, and I do just the same process. I ensure that that is a different point that I'm making, otherwise I'll be duplicating myself and I won't be picking up all the marks available. In these sorts of questions, it's really important that you make different points. Typically where people go wrong is they make the same point twice. And finally, we get to the discuss question. Discuss the benefits of using premium bonds as an effective way to save. Pause the video now while you attempt this question. Now, with a question like this, you can see that there are many possible answers. However, what I provided for you is a structure which you should be looking to use. For example, I always like my first paragraph to show a good understanding of the question and the key term being a premium bond. You need to ensure that you try and use data where possible to support your answer. So you will see in here that I quote the Bank of England's current interest rate. I also quote a interest rate from a savings account. I also quote the price that's possibly available for a premium bond. And I also quote the cap for a premium bond. So I'm using data to support my points. Notice that I'm also developing my points, and I'm also presenting arguments from a different viewpoint. So I'm also sort of counter-arguing. I like to use the connecting word, however, on the other hand, it could be argued that they are my favourite connectors that I like to use to make my other arguments. At the end, I sort of pull it all together with a conclusion. However, you don't actually need to conclude. If you conclude as you go along, that's perfectly fine. However, as a structure, I do prefer to put a conclusion at the end, but I never present new information. If I'm going to conclude, I'm going to draw together everything that I presented above. If I'm presenting new information, it's not a conclusion. I'll leave you with the ability to read that answer and see what you think. Okay. So now hopefully you have a better understanding of the requirements of the exam questions that you may be asked. It's more important that you get into the habit of identifying the key exam command term and you recognise what structure is going to be required to maximise the potential marks of this type of question. You need to be undertaking practice of past papers and sample papers and also thinking about what possible questions could come up. The only way to get better is to practice. Thanks for checking out the BeeBusienssBee YouTube channel. Don't forget to click the subscribe button down below to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, it's at BeeBusienssBee. Also give the Facebook page a like, it's facebook.com/BeeBusienssBee. And lastly, don't forget to check out the online hive of activities found on BeeBusienssBee.co.uk, full of quizzes, activities and resources. And remember, until next time, keep buzzing!